Hey all, in an attempt to try to make sure that I get through every type of problem with you, I'm going to go through and do the odds first, and if I have time, I'll go back and do the evens with you. So this is your review sheet for the upcoming test on October 5th. I'm going to start with solving equations and make sure that you know how to do it. If we cannot solve equations, we are in trouble, because you can't pass algebra, you can't pass geometry, you can't pass algebra 2, and so we got to make sure that we can get these solving equations down so that you can move forward. Okay? My goal is to not have any of you next year, and I know that that's a horrible goal, but like, I love you all. I want to see you all go to geometry. I don't want to see you in my class again. So, right here, I'm looking here. The whole goal of these problems is to get x by itself. So I'm shading in that x. Okay? Right now I can combine a few like terms. So right there I have negative 5 plus 6. When I add those together I get positive 1 equals 17. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to subtract 1 on both sides. And I get negative 4x equals 16. Okay? Again, the whole goal was to get x by itself. That's why I had to move the 1 first. I did get asked a question the other day, and they said, how did you know that it's a minus and not an addition sign? And it's because I have to do the opposite in order to make this cancel. Okay? So now, when I'm trying to get x by itself, I have multiplication happening right now. That negative 4 right next to it, it signifies multiplication. So to get rid of multiplication, I'm going to go ahead and divide by negative 4. When I divide, I get x equals, a positive divided by a negative is going to give me a negative, and it's 4. Okay? So I'm moving forward, I'm doing just the odds. I'll leave the evens to you. Okay? Negative 15 equals 6a minus a. So if I have 6a minus a, those are like terms. When I do this, I want to make sure that you understand that this does not become a 6. We don't just subtract the a and the a goes away. This is secretly 6a minus 1a. And so 6 minus 1 is going to give us 5 of those a's. Equals negative 15. I'm going to divide by 5 on both sides. I get negative 3 equals a. Done. Final answer. So here I start to see some parentheses, and a lot of you are really good at distributing. So you're great at it. We go to both parts. You show me your rainbow. Some of us need a little help. Okay, so when I distribute, it is multiplication. Just take that moment to slow down and multiply. So 7 times 3 makes 21. It's negative. 7 times 8 makes 56. It's also negative x. So one of the problems that I see here is some of you start to add. Don't do that. Okay? We want to make sure that you're multiplying if you're distributing. So now I'm looking at this and I'm trying to get my x's by themselves. Problem is I have 2 x's in this problem right now. So my goal is to get those x's together. In order to keep it positive, I'm going to add 56x to both sides. Okay, so if possible, I like to add the bigger one, making it positive. I get 56 minus 6 makes 50x plus 29 equals negative 21. Okay. So I'm still trying to get x by itself. I have this thing going on right here. And the easiest number for me to move right now is that 29. I can subtract it from both sides. I can go ahead, I can get rid of that. And I end up with 50x equals negative 50. Still trying to get that x by itself. So right now the 50 is multiplying. I'm going to divide by 50 on both sides. When I do that, I get x equals negative 1. I have a couple of people make mistakes here, and they go, that cancels. Okay, but it cancels into a 1. It doesn't cancel into a 0. If all else fails, use your calculator. Okay, you get 2 on your test, so make sure that you're using it to your advantage. Okay. Here, again, I have parentheses. I do need to distribute in. All I am distributing right now is that negative sign. Okay? So when I distribute the negative, I'm going to rewrite everything. A couple of you have problems rewriting. So just take that time, be a little careful. A negative times a negative makes a positive 8n. It just flips the sign, so I get a positive 8. It makes the sign a different thing. There's a couple of choices as to what you could do first, so you can either combine like terms or you can move things over to the other side and use some properties of equality. I personally like to combine like terms, so that's what I'm going to show you. Okay, so I have 4n plus 8n makes 12n plus 8. I do want to show you a mistake here because I'm seeing a lot of people do this. Okay? That is not okay. You just did that to one side and one side only. Okay? So if I am looking at that, you just took things away from one type and didn't give it to the other. Okay? The other analogy I've used in class is that you just worked out your right arm, but you did nothing with your left arm. Okay? So you did double on your right, you did nothing with your left. It's not okay. We got to make sure that that gets taken care of. So I am allowed to combine like terms because it was on the same side. I am not allowed to do properties of equality and not put it on two different sides. Okay. I'm trying to get my n by itself. That's the whole point of these problems. It's like, let's get the n by itself. But before I can do that, I have to get all the n's together. So I'm going to move one of my n's. I'm choosing to move this n this time because I would like to keep my n's positive. Okay, you're more than welcome to go the other way, but it makes your numbers negative. It makes them harder. So I get 28 equals 5n plus 8. Okay. I'm still trying to get the n by itself. I am subtracting 8 from both sides in order to get that n by itself. I get 20 equals 5n. So now I'm still trying to get the n by itself. Right now 5 is with the n. I'm going to divide by 5. Divide by 5. I get n equals 4. Done. Okay, number 9. I'm going to distribute n on both sides. I get 5m minus 25 equals negative 6m minus 36. Okay. I'm trying to get the m's by itself. Right now I have m's on two different sides. I'm attempting to put them on the same side. The one I am going to move is the negative one so that I can make it positive. I'm always looking to keep it as simple on myself math-wise as possible. So I get 5m plus 6m makes 11m's minus 25 equals negative 36. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add 25 to both sides. Remember, I'm doing the opposite of what was here. And I'm moving the 25 before I move the 11 because it's farther away from the m. It's easier to move things that are farther away. And I'm not going to move that negative 36 because I don't want to end up with nothing on that side. Okay? I want to make sure that there is always an equal sign and there is something on each side. So this cancels. I get 11m equals negative 11. I'm going to go ahead and divide by 11. Divide by 11. I get m equals negative 1. Done. Okay. Right here, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to distribute in. I'm going to distribute in. 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times negative 5 is negative 20. N plus 8 equals negative 9 times 12 makes negative 108. If you don't know these off of the top of your head, it is okay to use a calculator. Please do so. Negative 9 times 4 makes negative 36n. I am grading you on your ability to do algebra, on your ability to solve equations. I am not grading you on your ability to add and subtract and multiply and divide negatives because you have a calculator that can do that for you. Okay. So I have ends on opposite sides right now. I'm trying to get those ends together. I want to get the ends by themselves, so I'm going to move one of these ends. I'm looking at it. I'm like, do I want to move the negative 20 in or do I want to move the negative 36 in? And if I move the negative 36 in, I add it to both sides. And this allows me to make a positive number. So I'm going to move the bigger number. I want to make it positive. So I get 16 in. I get 12, 8, and negative 108. Okay. There's a couple of options here. Since I combined like terms on the last one, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use properties of equality here so that those people who are trying to use properties of equality can see what happens. So I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides. What kind of stinks here is that I have two negatives going together, which means that I have to remember that these add. So I get 12 plus 16n equals negative. It's a bigger negative, okay? So I'm going to get 116 because I technically add the 108 and the 8. If that is too hard for you, you have a calculator. Use it. Okay. So now I'm still trying to get that n by itself. I'm going to move the 12 in order to do that. I move the 12 by subtracting 12. When I subtract 12 from a negative, I'm going to get a bigger negative. So I know that this is still negative. I know that I'm going to add the 12 and the negative and the 116, and I get 8, 2, 1 equals 16n. For the first time in my worksheet, I am pulling out my calculator. Okay, pretty good with my facts 1 through 12, but I don't know what 128 divided by 16 is. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do it on a calculator. When I do that, I get n equals negative 8. because I divided a negative number by a positive number, I'm going to get a negative number. Okay. I used my calculator for all of that. I did negative 128 divided by 16. And I got negative 8. Okay. At home, you can use your phone calculator. In my class, you must use the classroom calculator. If you forget where that negative sign is, you can ask me. Okay, so I'm going to stop my video there. I've finished this first page, the odds. I'm going to stop there because that deals with just one type of equation. It's the solving equations. And I'm going to move on to my next video, which will show the graphing inequalities.